Good afternoon, lovely people. How are you all today? I hope you're well. Oh, it's still really warm. What is going on? It's September, but it still feels like summer. It's gorgeous. Now, I'm surrounded by cats. I think that's why my nose is itching. I've had a really busy few days. Tons of sewing, yay! Plus time with my great aunt. That was fun. Actually, do you know what's really nice about going down there now is all the schools have gone back. So, well, most of the schools have gone back. So, although I love it in the summer, generally after I've visited with her, there's only a train once an hour, and I try to time it so that I've got about half an hour before my train home to pretty much always take myself off down to the beach to just sit and breathe that lovely air for a while. I sit either on the top of the cliff or I go right down on the beach. And of course, all through this summer, it's crazy noisy with the kids splashing and squealing, and it's gorgeous. It's so lovely. It really is. But it's also lovely. This visit I've just had yesterday is my first it's that first one of, I've got the beach back to myself. Obviously there's still quite a few people around because the weather's beautiful, but the pace is definitely different. Anyway, that's digressing. Well, it's not actually, it's I'm just kind of catching you up. And I was planning today to have a full day in the garden, or as full a day as possible, but already my morning has been used up by other things. So rather than doing any gardening today, because actually, you know, things are okay. Yeah, it's pretty much okay. There's nothing really important or needy that needs doing. I'm mostly going to concentrate on harvesting today. So I'm going to be harvesting beans again for, for storing. But I thought I'd just take you around with me today because I'm also going to be harvesting for food for the coming week. So the majority of... Is it majority? Well, yeah, in a way, the majority of my garden is about growing for storage for longer term. So it's about this time of year when I do the big harvests of whether it's squash, beans, tomatoes, whatever it is, to then process for storage, to then last for the next year. But of course, I'm eating from the garden every week, whether it's through the summer, lots of bits and bobs of fresh things, or if it's in the winter, it's a lot of stored stuff supplemented by the brassicas and the carrots and parsnips and what have you. But what I try to do when I'm really busy, like I have been recently, is come today, do a big pick for storage. So I need to make sure I assign a chunk of time at home for either podding, bottling, whatever it is I'm doing, but also is to pick for food for a whole week. I have a big cooking session today, so I can kind of get it all done in one go, and then through the rest of the week I don't have to think about meals and all that kind of thing. There's just going to be stuff ready for me. I'll make some stuff that I put in the freezer, and then in 5 or 6 days time hoik it out the freezer and have it to eat. So yes, I'm always eating fresh from the garden to some degree or other. Obviously more in the summer and early autumn. I'm always picking for storage, but today it's a typical day. I'm doing both in one go, so I thought I'd have you around with me. Now, before we go out there, I've got a couple of thank yous to say, which are a little bit overdue. I'm really, really sorry. It's just been a bit, I don't know, it's just that bonkers time of year. Hey Poppy, if Poppy will get out of the way. So first thank you is to the lovely Claudia in Germany. Thank you, Claudia. Claudia sent me some fabric scraps which are beautiful. I haven't decided what I'm going to turn them into yet, but they're definitely gorgeous enough to get my creative juices flowing. But she also sent me this. You see, look, this beautiful wee wooden fox. Isn't that gorgeous? Running away, how apt. So Claudia was telling me this is made in a little family place Did she say where in Germany? I can't remember. But this little wee fella has been sitting on Claudia's bookshelves for years and years and years, guarding her books, and she's now sent it to me. That's so sweet and kind and really precious. So I don't know whether to have, I'm going to say it to her, I don't know whether to have her in my shed, on my shelves, which would be really pretty. I think she might be a bit too precious. I think she might have to come home with me. I don't think you've ever noticed behind my bureau, you may not have seen it, I've got a really beautiful piece of art, an original piece of art by a local artist, and it's foxes. And when I first got my job at Great Ormond Street, every time I've ever had a first job, like proper or a big job, I've always used my first pay packet to buy something memorable and something beautiful. So for instance, my sewing machine, that was bought, oh gosh, that's years and years and years ago. I got a job, gosh it is, I'm just trying to think now, it's so many years ago. It was, wow, it was the early 90s, and I'd got a really good job doing a set design for a theatre production. It paid me really well, so I bought my sewing machine. Anyway, I'm all over the place today. I think it's just because it's been such a chaotic few days. So like I was saying, when I got my job at Great Ormond Street, I bought my fox, my piece of fox art. So I think this wee beauty will sit perfectly underneath it. I'll try to remember to take a picture of the two of them, put it on my Facebook page, so you know what I'm talking about it. So she's going over there safely. Also, oh, bye Rosie, a thank you to Lisa, who is definitely a girl after my own heart. So the note I got from Lisa was that she'd found these items in a skip behind a charity shop. So I can only presume, Lisa, that you are burrowing around one evening when it's dark, no one's looking, go and have a skip dive. But look what she found. Some plant cell trays and some little plant pots. You can never have too many. Lisa, thank you so much. So yeah, what a great find in a skip. I shall add these to my pot collection. I was mentioning this on Facebook about a week or so ago. It's probably longer ago than that now. I had a bit of a tidy up in the shed to get my pots and stuff organised. I could talk about that another day properly. But I counted my plant pots. I have 524 pots. That doesn't include all the paper pots I make each year and all my cell trays that I've got. And I was talking about it to Gary the other day. I was saying 524 pots, and I still run out of pots, and I still need to make paper ones and use cell trays, and then I still run out of pots even then. That just goes to show how many plants I grow each year. When you think the whole garden, apart from potatoes and onions, which come from seed potatoes and onion sets, I grow everything from seed. So if 524 pots isn't enough for me, it boggles the mind about how many plants I actually raise every year and get into that garden. Crazy. Anyway, so thank you, Lisa. And then my last thank you is not an object, it's a person. Our lovely Clarice from Clarice's French Gardening. That's her YouTube channel. If you've not ever popped over to have a look at Clarice, do. She is gorgeous. I'm a little bit in love with Clarice. She's such a sweetheart. And the thing that comes over, so I should tell you, so Clarice is a Scottish lass, but she lives in France, and she's doing up her garden and just getting stuck in. Oh my goodness, there was this one episode in the summer, go and have a look. She was trying to dig out a new bed, and like boulders, massive boulders. I do not know where that woman gets her strength from. Clarice, what are you eating, woman? Shifting these great boulders. Anyway, she's an absolute sweetheart, and she's so incredibly warm and generous and giving. She sent me a beautiful little parcel over for my birthday. Just arrived, unexpected, so lovely and thoughtful. And she's so generous, bless her. She bought some bunting and a couple of mugs from my shop, and she did a whole video showing them and saying, oh, look at Vivi's stuff, look at Vivi's stuff. It was such a lovely little promo from Clarice. Thank you, sweetheart. I was really, really touched. It's always so lovely after spending hours on my own at my sewing machine to see where the products end up and to see people enjoying them. It's so beautiful. So yes, a massive thank you to Clarice for dropping my name about 17 million times. God love her. Right, time to get into the garden. What shall we pick first? Let's get a basket and go and do some harvesting. What better place to start than with the tomatoes? So, when I'm sort of planning and organising my pickings, generally what I'll do is, say on a Sunday evening, my little last job of the day, oh, just to say I'm having orange ones off as well because I don't want to risk them staying out here too long. Yeah, I'll have a little sit down last thing in the evening, especially if it's a day after I've been in the plot all day, because if I've been in the plot all day I've got a really good knowledge of what's growing, what's ready for picking. So I'll generally have a little sit down with a piece of paper and plan my menus for the week. Which, now I know that might sound a bit too organised, a bit too much planning, a bit too nerdy to some folk, but honestly I feel like I'm juggling so many things all the time. It just works for me that way, and also it just helps me to make sure I'm kind of rationing all this lovely stuff over the course of a year. So I'll have a think about what's growing really well, what's ready for picking, but I'm also always thinking about what have I got left in store. Are there things in store that actually need using up? So at the moment I'm just using up the last of last year's beans that are in the freezer. All the dried ones are used already. So I'm just down to the freezer ones, and of course I'm also mindful that I need to make space in the freezer for this year's ones. I don't want to go mad and eat them all up in one go, because what if this year's ones fail? However, by this stage in the year I can see that they're not failing. I can see that I've got a really good amount coming, so I can go wild with last year's ones. Yeah, so I've basically worked out or given myself a rough idea of what I'm going to eat this week, and therefore I will pick for both the specific meals I'm going to have, but also things like the tomatoes. Whenever I'm doing a pick, I'll just pick whatever's ready. I'll reserve a few to have fresh if I want some fresh that week, which of course I do. I've waited long enough for them, haven't I? And then whatever I'm not having fresh will get either bottled or frozen. So yeah, as I'm going around today, there'll be some things which I do a big pick of, so the beans and the tomatoes, and other things where it would just be one or two bits and bobs. So I better shut up and get picking these tomatoes, hadn't I? Because they don't pick themselves. Oh, isn't that a lovely sight though? Right, come on, a few more, Vivi. Now, I fancy some fasolada as well, which is my gorgeous Greek bean stew. So I need a carrot for it. Well, couple of medium-sized carrots would do it, but I've had my eye on this whopper for a few days, so I'm going to have it out. Now normally, oh hang on a sec, normally the fasolada I would make from using bottled tomatoes and the stored gigantes, but as a bit of a treat I'm going to make it all fresh from this year's produce. Whoa. Well, when your recipe calls for 2 to 3 medium-sized carrots, but that's what you pull up, I think that will do. Look at the size of it compared to my face. So yeah, that will do for my fasolada. And whilst I'm in here, let's have out a few more. Can I find any? We are very jungly in here. A few more spring onions. So I've got a few salads planned for the week, and quite often, hang on a sec, where are you? There you go, I'll bend down. Yeah, quite often for salads I would use red onion, raw red onion. However, because I've got the little salad onions, I'm going to use these instead, because the red onions will store okay. They'll store till, into the winter at any rate. And I'm quite happy to cook with red onions as well as white. So rather than use up the red onions in salads now, I'll use up some of these lovely spring onions that I planted. Let's have a couple more. And while I'm down here, I'm thinking a lot about food now, you see. We've got a working party day coming up, and quite often, well, I'm not a big breakfast eater, but on the work party days it does make sense to have a good breakfast because it is work. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to have a couple of these little baby leeks out, and they'll make a really, really lovely fry up with the last of my new potatoes. So if you remember, I've grown them this year, I've direct sown them. Oh, Alice Fowler. Oh, I've pulled out a load, never mind, I'll eat them. And a tomato. Yeah, I've grown them sort of as a direct sowing and in clumps, so they haven't got huge, but they're beautifully tender, full of flavour. So I reckon, like I say, a load of these fried up with some of the new potatoes I've got left. I'll just parboil the new potatoes, fry these all up together. It's kind of like a variation on Bubble and Squeak, and that'll be a nice cooked breakfast to set me up for a day of working in the garden with all my friends. Good. Do I need anything else from this bed before I cover it? No, I think that's it. Right, let's get it covered and move on to the next bit. Put all this foliage back in, oh my goodness. Someone's being noisy over there, never mind. So for another of my main meals, I am going to do the chard and bean casserole that I tried for the first time. When was it? Back in May. Gorgeous. Any bean will do. However, I'm just going to satisfy my addiction for my gigantes at the moment and do it again with gigantes. The great thing about the gigantes is they're such a big bean that actually it's only going to take literally 2 or 3 pods to give me enough beans for one meal. Fantastic. So, and this is what I was saying about the chard, it's so great. Cut and come again veg. just keep taking. Honestly, all summer, let me step over and show you. Oopla! All summer, harvesting, and it just doesn't know when to end. Oh, look at those colours. Oh, that one's looking a little bit floppy. Let's put that in the compost. But, you know, with colours like that, whoa, don't you want to scoff it right now? And of course, I have to have some of this beautiful cotton come again celery. Oh, yum. It's such, oh, even just snipping it, such an incredibly strong flavour. It's gorgeous. I won't need much. In fact, for all my cooking this week, that will probably do it. Because of course, not only have I got the stalks, but I've got all this beautiful leaf of flavour too. The one thing I would say about homegrown celery, or at least this green Utah that I grow, I've noticed is within hours of picking it, it does really, really wilt. I've even tried doing the old trick of, you know, standing it in a pint glass of water or a vase of water or whatever in the fridge to keep it fresh, and it still wilts. So it's definitely one of those things to just pick, use it straight away, and then, oh my goodness, the smell is absolutely gorgeous. Right, what's next? Oh, I think let's just pop to the herb bed. And of course, let's have a bit of this. No Greek meal would be complete without, oopla, a little bunch of thyme for flavour. Gorgeous. That, by the way, can you see just there? That's, let's move the French lavender out there. That's the mountain tea. So I haven't killed it yet, but I'm hoping maybe by this time next year I can have a nice cup of mountain tea to go with my fasolada. Of course, it's not just about my belly when I come picking. Sometimes it's about the bathroom too. So I'm going to have away a few sprigs of rosemary today. Now, I do keep a lot of dried rosemary at home. For instance, you know, in the spring when I did the really big prune, it's another big prune now, all of those dry bits I keep and I use them in my bath. So just before I use them, I'll give them a pound with the pestle and mortar just to help them release their oils. They go in a little muslin bag, hang under the hot tap as it's running. It's a really soothing bath. But this isn't for my bath. I'm actually going to make a hair rinse with this because, so you'll know by now, I try to live as plastic free as possible. And I swapped to a shampoo bar, year and a half ago or so. And I've been using the soap bars, the shampoo bars from Lush. Sorry about the noise in the background. Yeah, I've been using the bars from Lush, which last really well, really, really well. They're quite expensive. I think the last one I bought was £7.50. However, it lasted for over a year. And I really, really liked it. Anyway, if you remember, when I was up with my mum, there was that little pop-up shop. So my mum treated me to a shampoo bar. So it's a new one I hadn't tried before. And what I'm finding is it feels like my hair feels clean, but it just feels like there's a sort of a bit of residue in it. How to describe it? I want to say my hair feels sticky, if that makes sense. Anyway, it does. I don't like it as much. I will be going back to Lush when this one finishes. So what I'm going to do today is, or when I next wash my hair in the next couple of days, with this fresh rosemary, I'm going to pound it a little bit again, help release its oils. I'm going to make a tea from it. I'll make about a pint. Steep it with slightly off the boil water. I don't want it absolutely boiling. Let it cool down considerably, and then just use it as a final rinse to hopefully get rid of any of that soap bar residue. I don't know if that's going to work. I'll give it a go. But either way, rosemary is a fantastic scalp and hair tonic, so I won't be doing myself any harm. Hopefully I'll be doing myself a world of good, and I will smell utterly gorgeous afterwards. Well, this is a nice little pick today, and this will happily feed me over the next actually about 10 days, plus some for storage. So if you think I've got this, and then combine it with one of my stored squash from last year, plus some rice, maybe some other lentils. So I've got plenty of spring onions for 3 or 4 salads. So mostly at the moment I'll have salads for lunch and something warm in the evening, but that's plenty for my salads. Remember to bring home some garlic, and what have I got there? 5 onions. That 1 carrot's plenty big. I pulled out loads more leeks than I need for that breakfast, so that will become something else as well. The chard combined with some of the fresh gigantes. I might actually chuck some coco sophie in as well. That will become a nice main meal. That'll easily do 4 portions. The carrot, as I said, that's going to become fasolada with some of last year's tomatoes. I've decided I'll use up last year's tomatoes with it, along with some other bits and pieces. That was a volunteer tomato, self-seeded from last year, so I'll use those in my salads for the rest of the week. And then all of these gorgeous Tommies, they can be bottled. Picked another 3 cucumbers, so again salads, but also breakfast smoothies. My lovely stinky strong celery. Yeah, so not bad. Oh, and I've just been to the orchard and grabbed a few windfalls. So there we go, an apple a day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I reckon that's going to happily feed me for the next 10 days, plus tomatoes to bottle, and most of those beans will be podded and frozen too. Oh, and then not forgetting, of course, the lovely rosemary and thyme. Oh, happy days. Aren't the colours beautiful at this time of year? So there we go, just a quickie this afternoon. Like I say, this at the moment it's all about harvesting, cooking, bottling, preserving. Oh, my knees. So yeah, it may not look like a huge amount of food, but then, like I was saying when we were at the table, when you start to combine that with hello rusty stuff that I've got stored at home from last year still, you suddenly realise actually there's plenty. And when I make things like, say, the fasolada or the chard and bean casserole, I haven't picked any chickpeas. I could do chard and chickpeas instead another day. Anyway, but the point is, when I make those meals up, generally I'm making 4 portions. So just those 2 meals alone, that would do me 8 meals. Now, I don't want to eat every night for the next 8 days, so quite often what will happen is I'll do something like that. So of, say, the fasolada, I'll freeze 2 portions. I'll eat 1 portion tonight and another in 3 or 4 days. The chard and bean casserole, I'll freeze 2 portions. I'll eat 1 tomorrow and then 1 in 4 or 5 days. And then for another evening meal, I might do something like half a squash stuffed with something like, I've got rice at home, obviously I've got some nuts at home. They're the things I do buy still, is rice and nuts. But then I've got a couple of peppers that are nearly ready, so chop one of those up and add it into that kind of stuffingy mix. That's another main meal. That other half of a squash I could save and do another main meal, or chop it up and make into soups. My lunches are all taken care of by way of, I've got the last of my new potatoes, and I love new potatoes and salad. So my new potatoes and broad beans salad, I love it. I've got tons of broad beans still, so I'll probably make some broad bean dip, and that will do for lunch for a couple of days, just on a bit of toast. Don't have any bread, I'll have to buy some bread. Yeah, so just those few fresh bits, plus some stored bits from last year, plus some stored bits from this year already, I will feast over the next 10 days. Plus, I'll have then 3 or 4 or 5 ready meals in the freezer. Plus, if I do make a soup, that'll be another 2 ready meals in the freezer. Plus some of this stuff I've picked today, is going to be bottled or frozen, so there's more and more and more being laid down for winter. So yeah, like I say, from what looks like quite a meagre little picking, that's plenty of food for the next 10 days, plus some ready meals in the freezer, plus some stuff to store for the winter. Now all I need to do is get home and start cooking and freezing it all. Oh, what fun, yay. Actually, as I've been walking around, I was thinking more and more about those, frying up those leeks and potatoes together, and I was thinking, ooh, I've got a little bit of feta in the fridge as well, I could crumble a bit of feta on top. And I started to actually salivate. So I might have that for my supper tonight, because I picked so many leeks, and then do it again on the day before the work party to give myself a bit of muscle power in the morning. So I'd better get home and get dealing with it all, hadn't I? I hope you've enjoyed hanging out in the garden with me this afternoon. I've certainly enjoyed having you with me. I will see you all again really soon. Don't know when. Don't know what I'll be up to. It's kind of more of the same for September, isn't it? Although as we go towards the end of September, we'll start to have some of the clearing up at the end of autumn jobs will start. What a great time. Oh, Rusty, Poppy, be nice children. I'm going to separate them. Right, I'm going to... Rusty, leave her alone. I'm going to go and deal with these cats. Hey, buddy. Oh, take care, everyone. Cheerio.